Good evening, everybody. And here we are this evening, and we're going to discuss the Masters in Computing programs that are available on TU Dublin for the coming academic year. So we have some very wide and varied program with some very interesting programs available. In the first part of this presentation, I'll speak to you about a brand new Masters program we have developed in association with some European partners. That's a program in human-centered artificial intelligence. It's a European funded project with 4 European universities, a number of research excellence centers, and a number of SMEs across Europe who've come together to try and address this need of ethical computing, trustworthy computing, artificial intelligence style program, develop people with the skills to fit the upcoming rules and regulations that the European Union is introducing. We also will have a few minutes talking about our master's program in software and solutions architecture. The master's program, we have a few minutes to speak about our master's program in software and solutions architecture. This master's program is run in association with the International Association of Software Architects, which is a professional body for software architects. It can gain you a level of associate membership if you take the right options. It's a program that we've co-authored with Technology Ireland, SkillNet, and some of the leading technology companies in Ireland. It's a part-time master's. We also will have a few minutes to speak about the Master of Science in Computing with DevOps. DevOps is a method of developing software and automatically feeding it into production, automatically testing it, automatically securing it. It again is a Technology Ireland SkillNet program. So we'll start off this evening, first of all, by considering the latest master's program that we've developed, one that's very, very current, one that TU Dublin is coordinating a European award for, and it's a master's program in ethical computing, human-centered computing. Okay, so we started off when we considered this program with our European partners from Utrecht, from Naples, from Budapest, some of the leading universities in human-centered AI in Europe, alongside the Italian National Research Foundation, alongside CEDAR, who's a research foundation based in UCD, and some SMEs such as Nathan, CTEL, and Relay AI from around Europe. And we came to this view of a straw approach to looking at this master's and the content of it. In the straw man, we considered that there's people, there's technology, and there's the organization. Organizations nowadays are using human-centered, are using artificial intelligence approaches to assess whether people are eligible for a bank loan, to assess whether people are matching to a suspect on a database, to assess whether people are, whether automatically scanning images to see if a person has a particular health condition or not. So there's a lot of very serious decisions being prompted and being made with the assistance of artificial intelligence processes. And a really important element of that is to consider that these decisions are being made about humans, not about just objects. And they're very important to those human individuals that they understand why and how a decision has been made, and it's been made in an ethical fashion. That hasn't been a major concern of AI and technology companies up to this. It now is becoming a major concern for AI and technology companies. So TU Dublin has put together this program alongside some leading organizations in Europe. Some of the leading organizations in Europe from Italy, Bulgaria, Ireland, SMEs from Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, universities from Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, and Ireland again. Successfully won a competition to design and deliver this master's. We've engaged with over 30 technology companies and nearly 50 SME companies across Europe to try and come up with the needs that are the requirements for this particular program. We have an agreed body of knowledge arranged in 4 periods, and we've transposed that to natural validation processes. We've gone and identified common learning events, and in this program, there'll be some really exciting common learning events where you'll work with partners across Europe, where you'll get delivery from experts across Europe, and we'll have challenges and so on. So we will have excellent content in this program, which is really top notch. Okay, so then we're going to move on now, and we're going to look at the content of this Master's Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. And can I just say, maybe at this stage, I'll bring my colleague Rajesh Jaiswal in. Rajesh is a serious expert in this area of human-centered computing, and he's worked and he's led some of the international teams that are developing this content. So Rajesh, perhaps you could give us a little outline of some of the modules and some of the topics that are covered in the program.
Thank you, Barry, for introducing me. So as Barry has mentioned, that we have designed our book of knowledge along the lines of ethical, practical, and technical side of it. And we have divided that book of knowledge into 4 periods. The first period being the tools, and the second period being the modeling. Once a person understands about the tools and the modeling, then he can focus on the implementation. And then the third focus is being implementation, then the evaluation. And finally, once you have achieved all of it, you can apply those things in the master's thesis project. Among the tools, the students will be learning about the statistics, programming, and then they will move on to the artificial intelligence, the basics of machine learning modeling, and along with they will also understand what's the ethical side of implementing those models, how you can remove the bias within their modeling, and so on. And finally, they will dig into deep learning side of it, and they will see how the AI can be implemented. Like Barry has mentioned initially, the examples of how an image can be used to identify a person, or how an audio can be used to create new music signals, and so on. And so this particular series of learning will form a really good understanding of AI and how those particular AI can be seen in the future as well. So you will learn what are the developments that is happening currently in the future AI, and how the AI is organized in current domain, and what are the future of AI in there.
Thanks very much for
yeah.
that, Rajesh.
Yeah.
And as you know, some of the leading experts in Europe are working on this program. We have Professor Sharkov from Bulgaria, who's a member of the European Commission's organization on trustworthy AI, who's been contributing to some very interesting discussions. And we have our folks from Utrecht who are leading human-centered computing laboratory. If you were talking about human-centered computing, what's the little bit of a difference between traditional computing and human-centered computing, would you say, Rajesh?
See, traditional computing, you're just doing the calculations, and you're not really worried about how it will affect humans in general. So, but here in this particular course, whatever implementation you're doing, be it a machine learning or you're implementing AI, or even talking about the future of AI, you look through the human-centered lens. So how it is affecting a human through like how it is affecting the labor practices. If you are working with an AI person, because the AI is making decisions. If you're working in the education center, how it will affect again a person related to it. So every work that you do and you learn in this particular course, it will be you have to work through the human-centered lens. So you have to really be worried about ethics, society impact, and future of AI.
And of course, because the European Union is bringing in regulations and insisting that all AI decision-making systems take on board the human, there's a real need for these skills out there with employers.
Yes, definitely, because Especially like we always think about whether we understand the AI properly or not. But here we are actually going into both directions where AI will understand us or not, depending on that. And and with the recent bringing of the AI regulations, so like as you have seen in case of the GDPR, pre 2018, the data was used as as the company wanted to use it as they want. But after GDPR, the laws and regulations changes how you're going to use the data and so on. So the same way will happen with the advancement of AI, with the implementation of AI within the industry or within the education sector, the regulations will come, and you like with the taking of this course, you will understand how those regulations will be implemented and how they are designed in the first place.
So that makes you a valuable resource for a company because they are aware that they have to meet these regulations and really have to respond to these rules. So it's a very interesting area. It's a very exciting and new area. And it's one that we expect a lot of employment in because artificial intelligence on its own is a very hot area. But the ability to produce artificial intelligence that responds, that's understandable, that's transparent to humans, that decisions, and unfortunately there have been bad examples in the past of systems that turned out to be biased in their decision making, they're biased against a particular location or biased against people from a particular background. That's not acceptable and that's not going to be supported in the future. So thanks very much for that, Rajesh. I think we've used a good amount of our time on the Human-Centered AI Masters, so we better move on and have a little conversation about the other two masters. We're available to handle any queries if there's any chat elements, or if anybody wants my email or Rajesh's email, I'll put them into the chat. So we're going to quickly jump across now, and thanks again, Rajesh. I'm going to quickly jump across now to consider the two other masters we have. These other two masters are part-time masters. The Human-Centered AI Masters can work in either full-time or part-time from this September. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one of these, which is the Master of Science in Software and Solutions Architecture. So the Master of Science in Software and Solutions Architecture is one of these masters that we've developed alongside Technology Ireland SkillNet. And Technology Ireland SkillNet are the leading technology companies in Ireland coming together to identify the skills they need. So software architect, a solutions architect, isn't just concerned about developing any one piece of software. They're concerned about making sure that that piece of software works for the whole enterprise, that it works well with all the other pieces of software that are in the enterprise, that the design is one that, as with any architecture, is beautiful, but also one that will last over a period of time. So to bring this particular program together, we worked, as we've said, with Technology Ireland SkillNet. It actually won a prize for one of the best programs for developing people in the ICT sector. It won a Technology Ireland magazine award in 2019. It has 6 modules: business technology and strategy, human-centered AI, human-centered skills. And then it has in it introduction to architecture, advanced architecture, quality attributes for the IT architect, and finally it also looks at case studies in architecture. And again, you do a thesis at the end of this program. It starts in January 2023, the next intake of it. If you have an honours degree in computing and an appropriate role in the industry, you can apply for this program. If you're concerned that maybe you haven't quite got what fits the bill, the reason we've come on this evening to mention it is because it may be possible to take some extra modules or to do some extra experiential learning between now and the start of the program in January, and get yourself ready for joining this exciting master's program. It's one which a lot of students have given us very positive feedback. You can see up here in the link the Technology Ireland Skill Net blurb on it, and they have got some nice testimonials on it. So I'll make them available I'll make that link available in the chat as well. The program is actually one of a number of specializations offer applied IT architecture specialization. So the actual qualifications are Masters in Applied IT Architecture, specialization, software and solutions architecture. So that's that program. Highly recommended by a lot of people. We've had people in the public sector and people in the private sector take it. It's really accelerated people's careers. If you're a developer reaching a certain point in your career, or if you're an infrastructure specialist reaching a certain point in your career where you want to move up to a more strategic level in the organization. It's also one that's very relevant to digital transformation and organizations that are undergoing digital transformation. They want to have new capabilities. They need to understand their architectures well. They need to value those architectures well. The next program I'm going to look at, I'm just going to flip the tab here, and we're going to look at the Master of Science in Computing with DevOps, called MSc in DevOps. So DevOps is also called Development Operations. So in the old days when people were making software, and in the old days is about 10 years ago in this business, in the old days, somebody wrote a software program and they handed it to somebody else who then put it live on the system. Or as some people used to say, you wrote the software, you threw it over the wall and you ran away quick in case anyone discovered any bugs. Of course, that's not really acceptable in modern industry and not an acceptable way to work. So companies like Google, like Amazon, like Microsoft, they have pioneered new ways of achieving this. The old days, again, you used to release your software every 2 or 3 months. You'd only update the software every 2 or 3 months because it was a rigorous testing program. DevOps, combining development and operations, and in some cases we call it DevSecOps, and the Sec part is in this program as well. DevOps allows us to continually update our software, continually update massive applications like Facebook that have 2 billion people using them at the same time, without affecting them, without bringing them down, without slowing them down. So it's a very current skill set in industry. It's a very important skill set in industry. It's one that a lot of people are looking for. And it's a program a lot of people have engaged with and enjoyed very much. Again, it's a similar structure. It's a part-time program with a similar structure. You take 2 modules each semester. So in the first semester, you will take an IT infrastructure and automation module alongside a business technology and strategy module. That's be 2 evenings a week. The second semester, you will take a human skills module again, because we're trying to prepare people for leadership and to be able to take over senior roles in the organization. And then you will do a continuous integration, continuous deployment module, a very interesting module where we use some of the most common tools that are available to the industry. And with those tools, we learn how to automatically test and automatically configure software for deployment. In the third part of the master's program, in the third semester, again 2 evenings a week, we have 2 very complex modules: enterprise architecture, enterprise development architecture modules that consider the strategy, that consider more complex approaches to rolling out systems, and that look at some very highly successful rollouts and some very highly successful failures, I'm afraid, as well. So we look to learn lessons from some of the advanced deployments used around the world. We use, of course, tools in this such as Terraform, where infrastructure is automatically created for deploying servers, for deploying software and solutions on those servers, automatically testing them and in an invisible way to the user, keeping the system up to date, secure and current. So again, it's a highly valuable skill set. It's one that's much in demand. There's a substantial amount of people using it. Again, if you're considering doing this program, remember it's a DevOps program, so it's not a program in software development. Developers have done it successfully and accelerated their careers, but also ops people have done it successfully and moved up to the next level in their careers. It adds real value in a new dimension. Alongside the Masters in Software Solutions Architecture and Masters in DevOps, they both start in January. They both finish 2 years later in January. And we've had some very highly successful research project exhibitions where some brilliant projects have been demonstrated to industry people and to experts from around the world. So that's the MSc in DevOps, and that's also the MSc in Software and Solutions Architecture. So that's the range of programs that's available from TU Dublin's computing department. We hope you have enjoyed listening to this explanation. We're available if we want if anybody wants to give us any questions by chat. If anyone doesn't want to, we've put our emails into the chat, and people can contact us later. I know this particular video will be recorded, and we will be responding to the queries that come in over the next period. Okay, Rajesh, is there any final closing words you want to say around your human-centered AI masters? I know it's a precious thing to you because you've really worked with a team of international people to develop the best content.
I do have something to say, but I want to ask one thing about the DevOps. So since DevOps makes a software product that completes through the whole cycle of creation and the testing and everything, so do we have some sort of interface that will also do like ML DevOps? Like
yeah, well, we actually we're in the right place. I mean, the ML DevOps scenario isn't mature yet. Those tools, this requirement is so new. Those tools are still being developed. There are some tools, and we're in the right place because we work with Microsoft and Amazon and that, and we've looked at some of their tools. So we have some tools. We're working on that, and that's an exciting place to be in a program and to be joining a program where those tools and those techniques are still being evolved and developed. The challenge with ML, of course, machine learning, is with normal software, we call it in inverted commas, you create the piece of software and it works, or hopefully it works. With machine learning, you create the piece of software and it's got maybe 90% accuracy, 95% accuracy, but it drifts over time. The accuracy changes over time. The decisions that are being made can change over time, so the accuracy can fall in actual production. And that's not acceptable under the European regulations. You're making critical decisions about people. Those decisions have to be accurate. So that's the challenge, and that's a good question, Rajesh. And that's one that will undoubtedly be among the first theses that are created in the human-centered AI masters. Will be looking at these processes for maintaining accuracy and processes for being fair to people. If I don't get a bank loan, I want it because I didn't deserve the bank loan, not because some piece of AI was working in an inaccurate fashion and making a bad decision. That's of big consequence to me. The same for whether my CV was selected for an interview or so forth. So it's a really interesting to see finally technology is taking responsibility for all it does.
And that's the base of why we have designed that human-centered AI course, because it's not only about ML, it's not only about deep learning, it's about how they make decisions and how to really manage those decisions. So
thanks very much, Rajesh. I think we've gone past our meeting time, so I think we better pause the meeting now at this stage, and I appreciate you for coming on this evening, and we'll be talking again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.